So this one's a little bit different. Find a simplified expression for, and they want us to find the cosine of the inverse sine of x over 3 for x is between -3 and 3. Now I want to talk about that just a little bit here. So if we say that this is equal to some angle, call it theta, then we're saying the sine of theta is equal to x over 3, right? Okay, now if you think about multiplying both sides by 3 sine theta equaling x, then that would mean sine is between -1 and 1. And so now when we multiply it by 3, x is between -3 and 3. Okay, so a normal one, this has some value between -1 and 1, but multiply that by 3 then, and then you're going to say, oh, well, x has to be between -3 and 3. Okay, so that's kind of a side note on that. Okay, but go back to this idea, okay, because that's what we're going to use. When we say the inverse sine of theta, or inverse sine of x over 3 is equal to theta, we mean the sine of theta is equal to x over 3. Well, what we can do is we can use our Pythagorean identity. Okay, so the Pythagorean identity says sine squared theta plus cosine squared theta equals 1. Now, don't worry that it's theta instead of x. That's just a notation. So, we could have picked beta for the angle or whatever, and we could still use the Pythagorean identity. Okay, but I know what sine theta is. So that's going to be x over 3 squared plus cosine squared theta equals 1. Now, let me make a little note here. When I replaced this with theta, now I'm trying to find the cosine of theta, right? It says find a simplified expression for it. So I'm actually trying to find cosine theta right there, okay? So we'll continue with our work. We get x squared over 9 plus cosine squared theta equals 1. If I subtract, and then I do a little bit of algebra, some fraction work, and take the square root of both sides. Oh, shoot. I drew it too long. Okay, let me slide this up a little bit more. Now remember, I'm actually finding cosine theta. That's what I want to find. Square root of 9 is 3. So I can write it that way. The question is it going to be positive or is it going to be negative? Now remember, for inverse sine, okay, so let me scroll back. This was up here when we said, well, theta is going to be, the inverse sine of x over 3 is going to be equal to theta. So that means theta has to be in either the first or the fourth quadrant. It's got to be in this range between theta has to be between negative pi over 2 and pi over 2 because it was an inverse sine. Okay, now what do you know about all the cosines in first and fourth quadrants? All cosines are positive. All cosines are positive in the fourth quadrant, and cosines are positive in the first quadrant. So it's got to be the positive case. So cosine theta is equal to the square root of 9 minus x squared over 3. We don't know what x is, but we've simplified as much as we can.